Welcome back to Internet Marketing Demystified. This is the last in a. I'm sorry, let me try that again. This is the last in our four-part series on Internet marketing, and let's just get right into it. Brought to you here by Make Tech Better Incorporated. As we've been doing for the last three sessions, I'm going to review this one more time. This is our Marketing 101 review to help keep us on on task and really present about why we're doing this. So always remember, what are your three big questions? The questions are, who are you? What are you providing? And what's in it for your target audience? Always be able to answer those three questions very directly and very quickly, concisely. That way you can hone your message when you're doing your marketing. And of course, always ask yourself, what are your goals? In this particular case, what are your marketing goals? And your marketing goals obviously should be whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish based on your business model. I think all this is self-explanatory, but I like doing review. So for those of you who have not been on every single one of these webinars, our first one was all about taking a critical look at your website and how to make it from something that looks pretty into something that functions as a marketing tool. Our second session was all about some of the ins and outs of social media. Last week we talked about the value of video and how it can be used for your marketing. And tonight we're going to be talking about and finishing this series on email. So let's get into it. Email marketing, that's why we're here. So how are you marketing so far? So if you followed the last 3 weeks of instruction, you probably have a website or are getting one. You're taking advantage of social media, and maybe you're making videos. Hopefully I didn't make it too intimidating sounding last week. So that's awesome. You're doing great. You're taking advantage of the internet as a marketing medium. But why should you use email? Well, let's take a look at this. This is a very interesting graph. Oh, before we continue, I apologize. I'm going to put in the chat window, that is my cell number. If the audio or video quality should go out, just text me there, please, so I know. So anyway, here, this is a survey done of 50,000 members of Vocus UK. So this is in the United Kingdom. Vocus is an organization of marketing professionals. And if you look at what are they really focusing on with regard to their marketing, some of it is search engine optimization based, some of it is for a paid search, that's like, AdWords, content marketing, really focusing on their blogs, direct mail is 40%. But look at the figures of email marketing and social media. They are neck and neck at 81%. It's telling us something. It's telling us that you put your dollars and your energy into the things that have the greatest return. And as we can see here, out of 50,000 marketing professionals, they're getting a lot out of email marketing. So why email? Even before the 3 points I'll discuss here, we're all familiar with email. It's one of the first uses of the internet. I remember back in 1980, even before AOL, there was something called CompuServe, and there were also these things like intranet emails where, as a part of a university, you could actually send notes to one another. So it's been around for a long time, and people are familiar with it. So, and you all check your email. That's how you found out about this today, hopefully. So why else? Well, for subscribers to your email list, your audience is already a fan. So if somebody subscribes to an email list, at one point or another, you offered them something of value enough for them to share their email address with you. So that means you've already got them somehow. So why not send them a note? Take advantage of the fact that they shared that email address with you. The second is something, again, that we talked about in the social networking session, the mere exposure effect. That is that psychological effect that the more you are exposed to something, the more familiar you become with that something, the more likely or predispositioned you are to like that thing. This is why Coke and Pepsi keep advertising, even though everybody knows what Coke and Pepsi are. They still put that logo in your face so that you will, your brain will tilt towards one or the other, depending on how much more exposure you get to that. So the mere exposure effect is a great marketing tool. And third, your client base is a potential evangelist base. And I really do mean that. I know personally, when I use somebody's services and I really like what they did for me, I want to tell other people about it. If they are in my circle of friends and I just got my roof done, I'm gonna tell people if I'm happy with my roofer, hey, this guy knows what he's doing. So I'm going to get an email from that roofer, even though I have a new roof. I don't need another new roof, hopefully not for another 20 years. But if I have an email and I'm reminded about that guy's service, plus my friend 3 weeks later needs a new roof, all I have to do is forward that email to them. So take advantage of the medium. But first, I need to talk about something very important. Let's talk about your email address. That itself. So your email address says something about your professional image. Okay, if your email address is ABCDE123 dash Fortune 500, I don't know what. If it's something convoluted or confusing, that's not a professional message. Furthermore, your email address should not end with at AOL.com, at Yahoo.com, at Hotmail.com. What does that communicate to the outside world? Just your email address. Even if you don't email anybody, it's on your business card. What that tells me, especially, and it especially tells to Generation Y and to millennials, that you don't take your business seriously. That you don't take your internet image seriously. Because those things communicate personal email addresses, not business ones. And your competition, P.S., is using a branded email. You should barely end with at Gmail. So I'm going to use an exception here for Gmail because, and P.S., I have claimed for Make Tech Better, there is maketechbetter at gmail.com. I claimed it so that no one else would claim it primarily. I use it very seldom, actually. But I say barely use Gmail because Gmail it offers very good email support. It offers very good email services. Make Tech Better actually uses Google business apps, apps for business. And so when you send email to maketechbetter.com, it's being served by Gmail. Gmail offers their business services for $5 a month, so I am paying for that. But what I get is their superior email services, which are whitelisted. You don't want to get blacklisted email, and you won't get blacklisted from AOL, Yahoo, or Hotmail. And what do I mean by blacklisted? I mean, I don't know if you've ever had this experience where you email somebody and the email gets rejected. And you might get an email that says you've been blacklisted. And it's primarily because you are hosting your email services on one of these, $5 a month hosting companies. Could be GoDaddy, could be HostGator, some of those things. And somebody else on that server was a spammer, unfortunately. And because you're in the same neighborhood as that person, you're paying cheap rent for the hosting space, you wind up getting blacklisted. Gmail, I find, alleviates, or at least somewhat ameliorates that issue. But it's not ideal. It's still not ideal. But I'll give Gmail a little bit of a pass. But your email address really should ideally end with at yourcompany.com. You paid good money for the URL, so why not take advantage of that? It shows that you care about your outward image. It says you care about your company or your brand or whatever it is that you are marketing. Use it, because I just can't underscore this enough. I see a lot of people in the business world, they're passing out a business card, and when I see it at AOL, it's like the kiss of death. There's something else about AOL I do want to mention. I don't want to malign the company. I think they've had a lot of challenges with an older internet model that they've really had to revamp and compete with Google Mail and Yahoo Mail and other services. But because AOL was one of the oldest providers of mass emails to people, a lot of people have used the same email account for now maybe over 20 years, which is a little insane to think about. But as such, since there's an older demographic holding on to the AOL accounts, hackers are drawn to it like a moth to a flame, especially because older and I apologize up front if I'm describing you. It's just I've found this time and again, older people don't like secure passwords. Okay, they don't like to use upper and lowercase plus numbers plus symbols, which you really need to thwart hackers. And as a result, time and again, I get spam email from hacked accounts on AOL specifically. It's yet another reason why not to do that. Now, I won't, again, I don't want to say something to really knock AOL as a service. I think they are trying to fight it, but a lot of that issue is the end user not updating their password well. The other thing that your email address should allow you to do is to track open and click rates. I'm going to talk a little bit about that later, but wouldn't it be nice if when somebody opens your email, you know that they opened it and that they followed a link in your email, or that they opened it twice or 3 times or 5 times? You could actually track all of that. We'll get to that. If you already own a domain for your business, make sure your email address matches. Get professional. Everybody get that? Good. Going on. So how do you get started? I'm glad I asked myself that question. So don't simply send emails from your Outlook or your Mail app. You can, but I think that there are systems that exist out there, some of which are free, that will allow you to do it a lot better with a lot more features than just sending emails from your Mail application on your desktop or laptop. If you are going to send emails from Outlook or your Mail app, don't CC, and just a PS, I think it's very amusing. If you don't know what, I think a lot of you on this call know what CC stands for. CC doesn't mean copy, it means carbon copy. A substance which should never be used again, but it's seldom used. You used to have to sign that when you're at the gas station. You sign something, you get a carbon copy. But emails, there's no carbon, so it's just a copy. But don't CC a bunch of people so they can see each other's email addresses. If you open up Outlook or your Gmail or something like that, you want to look for the BCC field, which stands for blind carbon copy. So if you got an email from me this evening, for example, and you saw it was addressed to me, to Eric, I did a blind CC to you. That way, nobody saw each other's address. So at the very least, if you're going to email from your own account, don't CC a bunch of people so they see each other's addresses. This is very unprofessional. Do sign up for an email service like Aweber, Constant Contact, MailChimp, etc. And Constant Contact and Aweber have no free accounts, but MailChimp does. And if you're just getting your feet wet, MailChimp is a great way to do it. I use MailChimp for a couple reasons. One, because it started off as free. Second reason is because I love the layouts. The one drawback for MailChimp, if your email list explodes, if you get a lot more people on it, you may want to consider going over to Constant Contact or Aweber for the same reason I mentioned before about the issue with spammers. MailChimp across the board, their mail servers are not as they get rejected a little bit more often than Constant Contact or Aweber. But experiment. You try these things. You got to make sure you're motivated to use them, and that's a really good reason that I use Mailchimp. I'm going to show you in a couple of slides after this what Mailchimp looks like in the back end and some of the cool tools that you could use with it. But first, I want to talk about the content. What should I send out? Well, so this should be an echo from if you saw the replay or were on the call about social media. Comes from digitalinfusions.com. If you remember, when you're pushing out content for social media, you want to push out information that informs, that innovates, that executes. You're trying to engage your audience. So your email should do the same. Let me break that down to remind everybody. An email that informs, it can be announcements or news, or you're giving somebody a quick tip, or I just pushed out a new website this week for a client, and I'm sorry, I got distracted because Michelle asked a good question. I'm going to hold on to that question, Michelle. I will answer that momentarily. You're welcome. So an email that simply informs somebody about a part of your practice, or maybe something that's interesting that's going to interest your already engaged audience that's subscribed to your email list. Emails for innovation. That's when you're soliciting responses. Your surveys are great ways to engage your audience and get them to respond to your email. When you ask, and especially if it's a simple question. I'm going to show you a really good example of an email that I got from somebody that was like crafted so well. I actually called them and said, I'm going to use this in this presentation. An email for execution. Well, that's going to be, a call to action. An email for execution is going to be, we're running a sale, get this free ebook, something like that. You want to engage your audience, give them a reason and a value for subscribing to your email list. Otherwise, you will get a drop, and you don't want that. The following I thought was a really good email that I got from a fellow by the name of Alan Zoldan. He runs A to Z micromarketing.com. I've never met the guy. I will be very, very upfront about this. However, the title of his email was, Why My Emails Get Opened More Than Yours. And guess what? I opened his email. And guess what? Yeah, he had a lot of good points in it. So I want to run down these for you, if you don't mind. This is... In P.S. He does micro marketing. He does email campaigns for people. So I'm giving him a total plug, and I'm a complete stranger to him. So I'll probably let him know. Hopefully I will do him justice. So his suggestions are, number one, make it short. You want to write a short, intriguing, and straight to the point email subject line, and your email itself should be. It doesn't have to be terribly long. It should be, get it to the point. Hopefully it will link out to some content. You want to choose words carefully. There are some words that you can use which will trigger a spam filter. And even if it doesn't trigger the mail server spam filter, it could trigger your own spam filter. You have the ability in your own email applications to filter out certain words like sale or shipping, or say you could say you don't like getting a bunch of things that say I don't know, I'm trying to think of something, Viagra, that usually gets dinged for spam, right? So think about what words you're using, and are these words that are typically considered spam and then will trigger people's spam filters. You don't want to go immediately into the trash can. Learn from what works. You really want to look at your own emails and see which email campaigns, which email notes, newsletters, whatever they are, were the ones that got the most response, which were the ones that were most opened and had the most click-through rates. State the benefits. You want to write subject lines that show readers how they'll benefit from opening the email. right? This should totally make sense. I really, it's funny when we write emails and they always have a subject line. How many of us really stop and think about what are the kinds of subject lines that get me to open an email? Who's really good at this is Publishers Clearinghouse. I will admit, I will concede, when I was a kid, I loved getting those things and putting on the stickers and replying to them, whatever. Well, if you go to the Publishers Clearinghouse website and you sign up to get the $10 million for life or whatever, get prepared to be bombarded by 2 to 3 emails a day. And their subjects really well crafted. They do get you to open those things, and I've stopped opening them now because but they make me feel a little guilty. I will admit I'm a human being too. That's why these things work on me. The next thing that Alan suggests is don't state the benefits. What he says is sometimes it's not always the way to go. Sometimes you want to just pique people's curiosity, be a little funny or something to get people to open that email, but you don't necessarily state what the benefit is outright. So it's like a little teaser kind of thing. Run an A/B test. This is also called the split test. And the way you do this is once your email list gets pretty large, you test subject lines and you test email content. And it doesn't just have to be A/B. You could do ABC. And what you do is you send it out and you divide your email list into a half or a third, and you send one people an email one way, and the next group another way, and another group another way. I'll give you a very simple example of this. So a lot of people have done split testing or A/B testing, and they want to give away something for free to get you to open the email. Well, what they've found, and it seems like a duh, but it might not occur to you. When I emailed to you all that I was giving away a free webinar, I wrote, free webinar. And that resonated with a couple people. But as soon as I wrote free webinar, a $150 value, I got more people to register. And that's because psychologically, as soon as I value what that free thing is actually worth, and that's my hourly rate. So, I'm not lying. It actually is. This is a 1-hour session. This is what it's valued at. That made a big difference. So doing split testing, doing these A/B testing is a really good way to train yourself to create more effective and converting emails. Be familiar. Being familiar is really important. You want your clients to know that you're not austere, you're approachable, you're friendly. You don't have to be too familiar. You don't want to use slang. You don't want to be like, how's, your relationship going and how's your dog and things like that. But you want your language to be just a little bit informal. Pay off your premise. And I'm going to quote Alan directly. He says, cleverness or edginess in your subject line is one thing, but deceptiveness is a definite no-no. The content of your email needs to connect to your subject line in some logical way, or else there's a whiff of dishonesty. And I think that's very important. If you're going to get people to open up your email, even if it's a cute or a funny thing, it shouldn't be like, free Mercedes, and then you open it up. It's like, no, nothing free here. You really should pay off your premise somehow. Personalization. If you have a personalized recipient's name, that's going to have a higher open rate than not. And you can actually do that using MailChimp and Constant Contact. You can put in fields for name, first name, last name, whatever, and have that personalization happen automatically so you don't have to type up 50 personalized emails. Verbs. Alan suggests that starting a subject line with an active verb will create momentum. Meet, view, find, lose. Questions. Questions can be compelling. You want to ask the right kind of question. Think about it. Symbols. This is an interesting thing. So I don't know how many of you you're going through your emails, and then in the course of your email you see these emoticons like a smiley face or a heart or musical notes. Um, they were in vogue, and they're still used. I find them a little bit trite or unprofessional personally, but statistics don't lie. They actually do get opened. So you might want to consider using symbols. Special characters is the same way. There's a special character called a pipe. If you look at your keyboard above the return key, you'll see a backslash, and right above the backslash you'll see just a vertical line. That vertical line is called a pipe, and using a pipe is a really good way to separate some information visually. Brackets are good, and parentheses are also good for that kind of thing. And have your emails and other marketing materials written like a pro, by a pro. See Alan Zolden, for instance. And again, I do not know this guy personally, but I thought his points were very good, and he got me to open up his email. Having marketing materials written by a pro, I think this touches on a point that I made when it came to blogging and even to social media. You're all busy people, and you have your levels of expertise. And what I'm trying to do with this whole series, what I have been trying to do, is give you a lot of the basics to get yourself started. And then at a certain point, if you're ready to take things to the next level, you may want to increase your marketing budget to engage somebody who knows scientifically what makes for effective content, what makes for effective emails, what makes for effective social media, so that you can really preoccupy yourself with the business of doing business. I just took on a new client who is excellent at what he does. He is a contractor. He does like HVAC work. He's an excellent. I've been using him for years. He'll be the first person to tell you he is not the most eloquent writer in the world, and he knows it. So we talked about how are we going to get his content to be right. So he's going to give me the essence of his content, the facts, the figures, the things that he knows has converted people into clients for him, and then we need to work that into text. So that's just something to consider. If you consider yourself a pretty good writer of prose, and you can be very tactful and terse in your words, then there's nothing wrong with writing your own content. It's good to test it though. Always do that A/B testing. Let's go on. Here's some things to consider sending. So as opposed to just any old email, let's give you some directions. So you could send out a newsletter. I like to do that. I'll be the first to admit from my own email marketing for Make Tech Better, I have not been on top of my own newsletter as much as I would like to. However, I did announce this series in my newsletter, and I got some good response from it. You could send out a very quick announcement of a blog posting. I've got a client who does a lot of content blogging, and it does engage his audience. So how do you let them know there's a new blog post out? Well, you tweet about it, you put it on Facebook, and an email. You don't know. You have to remember, from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep, how often do you check Facebook? How often do you check Twitter? How often do you check your email? And at what times of the day do you do that? Now think about your clients and the times of the day they're doing that. So if you push something out during the day on Twitter, say at 9 in the morning, and then you push it out on Facebook, say at 2 in the afternoon, and then you send out an email, you schedule an email at around 6 in the afternoon, you want to see which of those avenues is going to get you a conversion. Which one of those is going to activate your fans? You have to do a little bit of experimenting, but this is why you need to use all of these tools. You might want to send out a sale or a special or a coupon. That all depends on your industry, of course. And another thing that I think is very effective, again, is a survey or a questionnaire. You're asking your fan base to engage with you, and you need their help. You're asking them for something, but it's just a little bit of time, especially if you tell them it's not going to be a lot of time. Those are really good ways to get people to engage with you. And I want to show you a really effective email that I just got this week, and I was really blown away by it because of a lot of the things that Alan talked about in that email. That what did we call that? That list that I just gave you. So let's look at this email. So this came from Jennifer. And the first thing, look at the subject line. It says, "Can I get your opinion on this?" It doesn't say it came from Jennifer at AWeber or something like that. It doesn't say her company name right there in the title. It just has her name. It looks familiar, and she used me. Can I get your opinion on this? So it says, "Hi Eric, I need your opinion. I just posted on my website what I believe to be the 3 biggest problems most small business CEOs have when dealing with IT support companies." Okay, you could find my top 3 list at, and then there was an email there, a URL. "Do you agree or disagree? Please take 2 minutes to check this out. I'd love to know if I'm on track and whether you agree or disagree. Regards, Jennifer." So she's valuing my opinion in that. And notice, it's a very brief email. She highlights 3 biggest problems. She gives me a link to go to. So let's dissect this, okay? So number 1, personal. Can I get your opinion on this? Wow, she thinks enough to ask me by name. "Hi, Eric." It's personalized. It doesn't say, "Hi, Mr. Concius" or "Mr. Contiguous" or any permutation thereof. It doesn't say "hello." It makes it personal. The next, "I need your opinion." That's a call to action. There's nothing I'm clicking there, but she's asking me for something, and she's pulling on that sense that I have that she respects my opinion. Okay, cool. Then she says, "Do you agree or disagree?" She really wants my opinion. She is willing to consider that I disagree with her list. Wow. "Please take 2 minutes to check this out." Well, I have 2 minutes. Let me check this out. And guess what? I clicked on that link, and it leads to an effective landing page with a clear call to action. And still, I was second guessing whether that email that she sent me was personal or was a marketing campaign. So I called her and I said, "Jennifer, what was this? Was this thing was this a part of a marketing campaign, or did you actually ask me about did you want my opinion?" She said, "No, that was a marketing piece." I said, "You know what? You're doing your job well. This was a great marketing piece. It was so clear. It was so well constructed, and it was so effective that I said, she should be getting paid very well, because this is a really good email." You'll notice it's not really formatted. It just looks like a newsletter, no bells and whistles. Bam, converts. Great. So job well done. All communications should be the kinds you like to read yourself. Think about, and maybe you should do this. Every time you open an email that's not a direct, like it's a client, they're asking about your services, or it's not, outside of the regular things, every time tomorrow, just do it for one day, every time tomorrow you open an email that you're compelled to do, you double click on that thing, keep it open, and at the end of the day, look at all the emails that you opened that are not from people that you directly know, that are directly about business or personal matters, and ask yourself, why did I open that email? Okay, Annie asked another good question. I'm going to save those for the end, so let's keep moving. So let's look at the benefits of a mass market email solution. And the one we're going to look at is MailChimp. And as I mentioned before, MailChimp, when you first start with it, is free. So you really don't lose anything by starting with it. So when you sign up for MailChimp, this is your dashboard. And I just want to draw your attention to a couple of things. So you'll see on the left-hand side, it's got my name and my logo there. I'm the only user on this account. I have campaigns, templates, lists, reports, and autoresponders. So I'm just going to go straight down there. Your campaign is that email that you're going to send out. It's like a marketing campaign. That's just the term that they call for it. In Constant Contact, I think they just call it an email or something. Template is a pre-designed thing that you're going to use over and over and over. So when you start your campaign, you can select from your templates. Let's say you make a newsletter template or a personal letter, like the one you saw from Jennifer. That could be a template. It's just a plain text template. Your lists are your email lists, plural. Now, I happen to have only one list, and you see it here on the right hand side. I've got the MTB newsletter list, and you'll see 47 recipients. Actually, I have 50. I don't know why it says 47 there. But when you're doing split testing and you're testing campaigns, you're testing sales pitches or what have you, it's a good idea to set up several lists so that you know where the new people are from. So let's say you are a pizzeria and you want to see, do people respond more to ravioli ads or pizza ads? Why not? I just had Italian tonight, so I guess that's where my stomach is. And you ask people, you send out one email to a bunch of people and it's all about ravioli. Sign up for my newsletter and you'll learn about the origins of ravioli. Now everybody, after this thing, go to Wikipedia and look up ravioli. And then you send it another email and you say, learn about the pizza and the origins of pizza and the difference between Chicago and New York and Italian pizza. And people will sign up for the email list. And then you see, oh, 20 people signed up for the ravioli email, but only 5 people signed up for the pizza email. And since they're in 2 separate lists, you know the numbers and you know the click rates and all that kind of stuff. You can eventually combine them into one whole list, but your emails to your ravioli people will not be about pizza and vice versa. It's sort of a lousy example. I'm sorry about that. So there are advantages of having lists. You could also then, if you know you have certain clients with certain services, you're going to push out certain newsletters or certain emails just for the purpose of explaining a certain sale about that service and not everything that you do. That's another way to use that. And reports, well, I'm going to show you what some reports look like, and I'm going to talk about autoresponders also. So this is what the campaign's background looks like. So when you send out a campaign or an email, you've designed it and you said, all right, I want to send it to all my subscribers. You'll notice the first one that I sent in this listing you see is an update and holiday greetings. And when I did that in December of 2013, I had 25 subscribers. And May, just a couple weeks ago, I'm up to 47 subscribers. And I can see at a glance how many opens, or the percentage of opens. This is important. And when you start sending out emails, you may not be aware of this already. If you're sending out emails to people and you don't have a metric to evaluate how many times these emails are opening, you're really losing some valuable data. You want to know what percentage of your email list is opening the email. And then you can see, who's ignoring you. Are there people that consistently ignore your emails? Maybe you have to work on your content. Maybe you have to work on your subject line. Maybe you'll have to do a personal reach out to them and say, hey, you know what? You don't say, I noticed you haven't been opening my emails. That's sort of a creepy thing to do. But what you can do is say, we haven't talked in a while. I wanted to touch base with you. And you can view even more detailed reports. You see that percentage of clicks. When I send out an email, I usually have a call to action, which is usually a link to a website, to a landing page, maybe to a video, and I want to know that somebody has clicked it. So when I sent out the social media webinar 1, you'll see a figure of 15.4% clicks. That means 15% of my 40 subscribers clicked on the link to subscribe to the webinar you are on today. That's important to know. And before you get discouraged by some of these low numbers, first of all, let me just show you. This is what my newsletter looks like, and you have probably know what an email newsletter looks like. You've probably received them. You may subscribe to some. What I like to do is make it very uniform, very clear. So in my May newsletter, I'm going to be sending out a June newsletter. I only have 4 things featured. The first thing is some call to action. In this particular case, it's a free webinar, the one that you're on now. On the left-hand side, on the bottom, I have my free ebook, which if you haven't heard about by now, then I'm doing a really lousy marketing job. If you go to maketechbetter.com, you'll see I'm pushing that particular ebook. And P.S., the reason I'm pushing that is because in order to get the ebook, you have to subscribe for my newsletter. So it's sort of cyclical. The middle column there is from my blog. That's a little picture of noted choral composer Eric Whitacre. And P.S., if you've never heard of Eric Whitacre, please do yourself a favor and look him up on YouTube. First of all, for a classical composer, and even for any musician, he's one of the best at using social media. I wrote a whole blog about that, which is what that blog post is. On the right-hand side, you'll see I'm doing a client highlight. And I think this is a really good way to give your clients, if you do a lot of B2B business, if you do business to business, it's a great way to give somebody a free ad. Since I build websites, I'm building websites for other businesses, and I'm happy to do this free advertising for somebody. First of all, it shows my work product. I built this website, but moreover, it shows somebody else's work product. In this particular case, it's a law firm in White Plains. So this is a report. Now, and this is a report of the social media webinar email that I sent out. Okay, and what I want you to see is there are 3 lines. The blue line is the click rate that I had, not the open rate, but the click rate. That was at 15%. Okay, that's not as important to me right now as the open rate. So if you remember from the previous slide, I had a 56% open rate on this email. The industry average, 20%. So when you first start sending out emails, and I don't care if you're a profit, a not-for-profit, whatever it is, if you're beating the industry standard of 20%, you're doing pretty darn good. It means people are at the very least looking at your content. They may be looking at it briefly, but they're looking at your content. And that's why when somebody opens the email, you have to make sure that your call to action is clear and that your content is succinct, all right, and easy to navigate with your eye. So that's just one particular cool thing. You'll also notice on the upper left-hand corner that you have revenue. You can actually use these things to generate revenue, but I really don't want to get down that particular rat hole. Autoresponders. So when somebody subscribes to your email list, ideally through your website or through social media, there's a lot of cool things you can do with these services, one of which is an autoresponder. And you'll notice that here I have a autoresponder that will send a thank you for signing up for my newsletter 1 day after you sign up. And you'll also notice that I've got a 66% open rate on this autoresponder. That means that I'm way beating the industry standard for an email opening up, and that I crafted this particular thank you note pretty darn well. Now, granted, that's a 66% of 9 people. So, what is that? 6 people, something like that, barely. I mean, what is it? 6 1/3 people. I have to do some math. But the point is that it's still a good percentage. So this comes from lifehacker.com. It talks about how to effectively use email autoresponders without being annoying. You want to avoid the obvious, like, oh, I've received your email, or thank you for your message. How many of you have gotten that? Use a little humor, be brief and to the point, and, as I showed you before, set a delayed auto-response. A lot of times when you sign up for an email, you get an instant email. It says, oh, thanks for signing up. When you send a delayed one, you have opportunity to re-engage that person who already is engaged in you, give them a little bit of time to think about you, and then get reminded maybe 24 to 48 hours afterwards about you. It's just a little trick there. Remember, I want to remind you of this. If you aren't growing, you're dying. That's a quote from Anthony Tony Robbins, motivational speaker. This applies to businesses and organizations. If you aren't growing, you are dying. This applies to email because you need to engage your client base regularly to remind them to engage with you. When you are dating somebody, okay, if either you are dating somebody presently, or you have dated somebody in the past, or what have you, or you're just getting to know somebody as friends, you call them, you email them, you text them, you are reminding each other that you exist. And if you're in a long, solid relationship with someone, you don't ignore them, you engage with one another somehow. That's what makes the relationship strong and healthy. It's the same thing in the business world. You have to keep engaging with that audience, even if they don't need your services right away. If you are a home contractor and you do a bulk of your work is repairs, and you repaired somebody's door, right? You might say to yourself, well, why do I need an email newsletter? Their door is not going to break down again. That's not the point. The point is to remind them of that job that you did, and every time, if you did a good job for them and they wrote you a testimonial, every time you send them a newsletter, you're reminding them of that good job that you did for them, and they may refer you out. So I'm going to first address the questions that were asked in the chat. So Michelle asks, can I talk about what database application to use with MailChimp or Constant Contact? So MailChimp, Constant Contact, Aweber contains its own database. So and what I'm going to do, I'm going to change the meeting.
All attendees are
there we go.
And may unmute themselves by pressing *6.
I just made it so that you can unmute yourself if you want to talk. You just got to have a good microphone or be on the phone. So I'm going to assume, Michelle, that you're talking about, you already have a database of emails, and how do you connect the two? They're usually separate. And what you do is you keep your email marketing list on MailChimp, on Constant Contact, on Aweber. There are, I believe, functions, at least in Constant Contact, where you grow that to not only include email addresses, but like as a conventional address book with phone numbers and other email addresses and so on. But typically speaking, you don't really connect the two. At least that's been my experience. I've used extensively Constant Contact and MailChimp. So it means that your internal email stays internal and your marketing email stays marketing. So you just have to remember that these tools, Constant Contact, MailChimp, whatever, are marketing tools, and your internal database is your internal database. But I will say this. If you have a whole database, let's say you have 200 emails from your clients, and they are your clients, it's best to ask them permission to be a part of your email campaigns before you make them a part. You may alienate some of your clients as a result of just blindly putting them on. I can't tell you. I've been to trade shows. I've been to networking events. I give somebody my email address, and all of a sudden I'm on their email list, and I find it terribly rude to do that. At the very least, I would expect one email saying, "Hey, we met at thing X. I'd really like to put you on my email list. Do you mind?" That I think is professional. I think it's totally unprofessional to just blindly put people into an email list. Annie asks, does one send those emails to clients or to others? Okay, so getting somebody on your email list is tricky. And one thing I did not address, there are firms that sell email addresses. It used to be they sell you mailing addresses. You could buy 1,000 addresses of people who may be interested in plumbing. I don't know what it is. And then you would blindly send them out mailing pieces. Well, there are people that do that with email addresses. I'm not a proponent about that. I think it's the same approach that I take with my business card. If you meet me, I won't give you my business card until you ask me for it, because that way I know you're interested in me. If you aren't interested in me and you don't, if I give you my business card right away, I have no idea if you want to pursue a relationship with me or not. But if you ask it for me, I know, and so I'll give it to you. And I feel the same way um, the about the email list. So when it comes to emailing direct strangers, that's where social media comes in. That's where you're getting your message out in other ways. That's why you use hashtags on Twitter. That's why you use Facebook and Facebook ads, things like that. Other questions? Everybody's quiet tonight. Although I will say, everybody's been coming back, and I personally have really appreciated you being a nice, strong fan base, which is good. Does anyone have another question about email? Michelle, you've unmuted yourself. Are you talking? Well, I can't hear you. Can anybody hear Michelle? Uh-oh. Okay. To whom do you send the emails? Oh, no. Okay, so Michelle, I think Michelle's having connectivity problems because I think she jumped in and out there. Michelle, I don't know if you're having connectivity problems. You should probably type your question if you have one. So Annie asked, to whom do you send these emails? So for me, in my industry, I have a lot of avenues to subscribe to my email newsletter or my email list. And the people that subscribe to it are A, people that want my free ebook, B, people who have watched the video on my homepage. You watch the whole thing, and then at the end it asks you to subscribe, and they've been compelled to do so because they like my content. They may subscribe because they read my blog. And also my clients themselves. Those are the people that I have on my email list. Who is not on my email list? Just, complete strangers. I don't make it a habit of taking every single email that I've ever received and just putting it in there. At the very least, if I've had a couple of email exchanges, again, I might ask somebody, do you want to be a part of my email list? And then I make sure when I send out an email that it's something that I would want to get, that it's interesting. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember the last time I opened that was amusing, that was fun or interesting. Daniel asks, is MailChimp a good source to use when doing an email blast? Yeah, that's what MailChimp is designed for, or Aweber or Constant Contact. Each of them have pros and cons. I find the interface for MailChimp pretty straightforward. Some people prefer Constant Contact. I find it's a little bit easier. Constant Contact does have a price point to begin with. It's not free to use. But when you're doing an email blast, oh, I apologize. I think, Daniel, you may be talking about when you're just trying to get a quick note out, like a plain text email, like we saw from Jennifer. Yeah, it's totally good for that too. And this is why it's good to have several lists. And what you can do, let's say I've got, for round figures, I've got 50 people on my newsletter list, but I have 25 people on my client list. The 50 people, 25 of the 50 people on my whole newsletter list are clients. And sometimes I might want to send an email just to my clients. Maybe there's some exclusive content that only people who have used Make Tech Better before have access to. Then I might want to do an email blast that looks like plain text, and that would be, I guess we can call that an email blast. So hopefully I answered that question well, Daniel. If there are there any other questions? Because I'm willing to entertain. All right, so I will take that lack of. Yes. Oh, Michelle has a question, I think. I'm waiting eagerly for Michelle's question. At the tone, please state your question. Back to the database. Yes, Michelle. And we're waiting for her typing. Here it comes. If I have my contacts in Microsoft Access, right? That, by the way, for those of you who don't know, Microsoft Access is a database program, or if it's in Excel, of course, or in Outlook. If you have contacts in there, can you pull them into MailChimp? You can. Typically, what you do, and you could do it in Aweber, and you could do it in Constant Contact. You could do it in all of these things. You want to export your data as a spreadsheet, usually as an XLS file or a CSV file, which is like a comma separated or a tab separated file. But warning, both Constant Contact or Aweber or MailChimp will give you a ding, and it'll say only add people who have bought into your email list, and they're indemnifying themselves of you possibly being a spammer. So when I started, I've run email campaigns for several different firms, and that's the quickest way to do it. So what you do is it's like a text dump. I believe Microsoft Access has the ability to export to an XLS file, an Excel file, and then you just import that Excel file. And when you do that, it will allow you to match the fields. So you want to match first name to first name, last name to last name, email address to email address, so that you're not importing the data into the wrong fields. Great. You're welcome, Michelle. Now, if you've enjoyed this last seminar of this series, and stay on. Oh, wait, Daniel's got a question. Let's go back to the Q&A. When doing email marketing, how many times in 30 days is too much or too little when trying to get business without people feeling like spam? That's a great question. There's a lot of opinions on that. And the thing is that the reason you get pummeled by emails is because they work, quite frankly. Everything depends on the way the content is styled. Let's say you send out in 30 days the same exact email every other day. Well, that's spam. Nobody wants to get that. You don't want to get that, and I don't want to get that. However, if on day one you say, listen, here's this new deal that I'm doing, and you're going to learn more about it in 2 days. But if you're in a rush, follow this link. And then in 2 days, you send a next email and you say, hey, here's this great trick that I learned, and blah, 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 blah. Oh, and if you want to learn more, click here. And then the third day, you push out, oh, I've got this sale. Remember that thing I was telling you about before? So you make it like a story. And there's a lot of different techniques like that. And again, this is where A/B testing comes in. A lot of it depends on your profession. A lot of it depends on who's making your content. Content creation is scientific. There's things that I've tested that are more effective and convert more, and ones that turn people off. And again, do yourself a favor tomorrow when you open up your emails. The emails that you open up that don't come from somebody you know and that aren't marketing, or let's exclude the ones that aren't marketing. The ones that you open up that are marketing and you didn't even know it, or they are and you were compelled to open it, leave them open. At the end of the day, read every one of them, scrutinize them, and see what got you to open it. That's what you make. Okay? We can get a lot more into Daniel's question. It's a really good question, and in fact, it's a question I struggle with too. I feel like I send out too few emails, and I think a lot of people do. There's a guy who says 3 a week is the right one, but he's also got a formula as to what each email should look like, how it should be constructed content wise, and even just the subject line. So, but I want to go on, and because it is 8 o'clock, but watch this now to the end of this webinar. This is important. Okay, if you've enjoyed this last webinar of this series, please like us on Facebook. You go to maketechbetter.com. There's a link to our Facebook page. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go to maketechbetter.com, and in the upper right-hand corner, there's a link to our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to that. Complete our survey. At the end of this, you will receive a link to a survey. Please complete it. It gives me an idea of what you got out of this, what you didn't, and this has to do with the innovate section of social media and of email marketing. The survey helps my practice become better. That is important to me. And P.S. I didn't put this in the slide, but I will put out this call as well. If you really like this whole series, especially if you saw all four, it would mean a lot to me personally if you were to go to my LinkedIn profile. First of all, let's connect on LinkedIn, and to write me a brief testimonial, a letter of recommendation. I really appreciate those. And if I get to know your expertise, I like to do the same thing in kind. Here comes the super secret bonus for participants in this webinar series only. Drum roll, please. So Make Tech Better is about to unveil a new service. As you know, or you should know, Make Tech Better has two main areas of focus. It's website design and development and Salesforce implementation. But we are really going to be devoting a good part of our practice to marketing consulting, not the actual execution, but doing like we did here in this webinar, but a lot more detailed to help clients, especially my web clients, really understand the internet as a marketing tool and some of those next steps to take. Our next service that we're going to be offering is explainer videos and commercials. And you'll remember from last week, I showed you some of the explainer videos and commercials that we crafted for Make Tech Better and for one of our other clients. We really love doing this. It's creative, it's fun. It also takes a bit of effort, as I think I showed you last time. So as we learned, video is a great conversion tool, and it's part of an effective marketing plan. As I mentioned last week, the internet is finally fast enough to accommodate high-speed delivery of information, and especially videos. There's no reason not to use a video because it's just like watching TV. So effective and well-constructed explainer videos can cost upwards of $10,000 from the big guys. I know a lot of firms that this is all they do. That's the lion's share of their business. And because they are professional and they do get great conversion rates, they can charge a heck of a lot of money to do all the heavy lifting. Make Tech Better is going to be offering to the public on our website marketing videos for use on websites and social media. We've had a great experience doing this. We really love doing it, which is why we want to make this a part of our internet marketing consulting practice. Now, our services for such videos will be, not right now, will be priced at $999 for a 60 to a 120-second video, which is reasonable compared to some of these upscale firms. And that will include the script writing, it'll include the video shooting, it'll include the animation, which I didn't list here, editing, the voiceover work, the sound editing. It's one whole package, it's turnkey. You engage us, we will do all of that. But for 1 week only for 1 week, and only for participants on this webinar series, and I know who you are because I've got your email addresses, Make Tech Better will be offering this $999 service for $149. That's it. Okay, that gives you everything. That gives you for an up to 2-minute explainer video, whether you want it to be live or animated. We will write the script. We'll sit down with you, talk about the goals and objectives of it. We'll do the sound editing, the voiceover, video editing, the whole thing, $149. This offer will end on Thursday, June 12th. That's next week at midnight. Okay, so it's a 1 week opportunity. You have to get in. So you could think about it. Again, go to maketechbetter.com. You could see our video series. Go to our YouTube channel. You could see some of our commercials. To take advantage of this great deal, you call us toll free, 855-934-3883 by Thursday, June 12th at midnight Eastern Standard. Do me a favor, don't call me right at midnight. I like to sleep. But you could take advantage of that. You can call. You can also email me if you prefer, eric@maketechbetter.com, and you can get that deal. As long as you've sent me the communication that you're interested in this deal, we don't have to complete the video by next Thursday at midnight. We probably won't. It'll take a little bit of time to turn that around. But as long as you let me know by Thursday that you're interested, we will count you in. So we know who's registered for our series, so just let us know that you want that deal. This has been, it's 8:06, I'm a little over time, but this has been a wonderful webinar series, mainly due to your participation. I would sound a little silly just talking into my computer and doing this for absolutely nobody, and all of your input, your questions and participation, both online and offline, have made this worthwhile. And what I will ask you is also, if you're interested in another webinar series, absolutely free, what would be a couple of subjects that you think you and others might benefit from? So again, I want to thank you. This has been brought to you by Make Tech Better Incorporated. We're building websites that look pretty, but really are effective. So don't forget that as well. And I want to thank you for all of your thanks. And I think that's it. That's the end of the slides. Thank you again, everybody. Really appreciate it. Have a wonderful evening and a great summer.